A lot of people try to help entrepreneurs or personal brands with being camera ready by talking about equipment and lighting and transcripts, but really the issue can be often deeper. Coming from someone who was afraid of public speaking, I understand the struggle. Being visible, sharing your opinions, talking about a concept can be scary, and that's what we're going to talk about in this podcast episode so you can become more visible and begin to share your message with the audience that needs to hear it. Stay tuned. Hey there, thanks for joining me for this podcast episode, Embracing Visibility as a Spiritual Entrepreneur. I'm Marisa Shadrick, your host. I'm an AI marketing strategist and certified copywriter, and this topic is near and dear to my heart because I had a huge case of fear of public speaking. And it wasn't until, some years back that I realized I had to overcome it. Now, I was in ministry for many, many years, and it was okay to do some speaking here and there with a small group because, after all, it was within a church, and so they're supposed to love you anyway, regardless of how bad or how good it was, right? So you felt safe there, but outside of that, I wanted to be able to communicate better, not just in writing, but in public speaking. And I knew that this was a hindrance for me. So I joined Toastmasters, and it was very agonizing and painful going through all of that, trying to muster up enough nerve to just give my opening speech, which is usually a topic about yourself. Just tell us who you are and where you live and your family. It's supposed to be very simple, but I struggled with it. And so I spent quite a number of years in Toastmaster trying to build up my confidence and figure out, why do I have this allergic reaction to public speaking? It was so hard for me. And it wasn't until a few years in that I realized it really is a skill. It's a skill that you need to develop. And the more I learned about public speaking, I learned about techniques, it became easier. And the more I found content that I was really passionate about to talk about, it became easier. And I realized that the feedback I was getting was very positive. And so that was very validating as well. But it wasn't until my club that I was in started really nudging me to compete that everything hit the fan, so to speak. They wanted me to compete, and I did little competitions, like I did a humorous competition, and I think I won an award for that. I didn't go very far in it, and then they wanted me to do another competition, and I thought, okay, I'll just do that one. And then they wanted me to enter the international speech competition. I thought they were crazy. So I decided, it's time. I've been in this group for a long time, and so I need to put everything that I've learned into this and just see what happens. If I bomb out, then I don't have to go to the next level, because there were numerous levels that you had to win before you were in the semifinals. And I never thought I would be in the semifinals. I just wanted to do it, get it out of the way, get some practice. And I started winning. And lo and behold, I ended up winning the district championship. I went to the semifinals. I was speaking at Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas. Never thought I would do that. And it was an amazing experience. And I discovered something about myself, really. I was becoming the person that I was supposed to be, not this imposter with all these limiting beliefs. I was evolving and becoming who I was supposed to be. And so even though I didn't win the entire competition, like the World Championship, I was one of the top 100 speakers in the world that year. And it really shows us, all of us, that whatever the obstacle is, we can overcome it. Not overnight, of course, but most of the things that we need to develop for having an online business are skill sets, and those you can learn. And oftentimes with journaling and just really reflection, you can see where the bottleneck is, and you can begin to focus on those things. Now, I have a ministry background, so oftentimes I look and I reflect a lot, and I look at things that just shouldn't be there just because of who I am as a Christian person. And I realize fear should not dominate my life. Fear robs me of free will. Fear will take over and make all the decisions for me, and I didn't want that either. And fear is just ugly. It's not of God. And I said, I don't want this. And so I was on this quest to overcome those things that made me very fearful. So in this podcast episode, and I kind of give you that to kind of give you context for this episode, it's probably nothing you haven't heard before. It's more of a reminder, because today in marketing online, if you're a personal brand, we really need to show up more. I mean, it's critical. It's what it is, right? It is what it is. I have a friend, Michelle Raymond, that she is just a sweetheart that I really love. She is a LinkedIn expert. And I worked with her on my LinkedIn platform. And she said, Marisa, you're posting all the time. You're posting every day except the weekend, right? You're posting great content. You're developing, your writing voice, and you're posting newsletters and images and a mixture of things. But I don't see you anywhere. Where are you? Where is Marisa? She said, you're hiding. I can't see you. You need to be visible so people get to know you and hear you and are able to see your personality. Why aren't you on video? And I went, ugh, Michelle, really? Do I really need to do this? Still, after all this time and after everything I went through, I had to do some soul searching, and I really didn't want to be on video because I didn't want, again, the same limiting beliefs. What do people say? I'm not one of these young people on video. I don't want to do all that post-production work on the videos, even those little minute-and-a-half clips. They have all this post-production stuff. I don't want to do that. I have to put my makeup on. And I gave all these excuses, but it really was fear creeping in. And so I accepted that challenge, and I decided I need to be on video more. And it's interesting that video content just attracts, and I was able to get clients through it. Now, I'm not going to say directly from the video, because oftentimes I don't even give a call to action on these videos I'm doing, and they're just a minute and a half. But I'm starting to realize that people just want to hear the person. So people want to hear you. They want to hear your opinion. They want to see you, and then not in a polished format with all of the mistakes and everything else. They want to see the human being, because people resonate. See, I just made a mistake right there, but that's okay. I'm going to leave it in there just to prove to you. People resonate with people, not with the brand, not with the logo. And so when we show up genuinely speaking to our audience and just sharing what we've discovered, what we've learned, our challenges, we don't have to give, our whole personal history. That can be overboard, right? But if we're just real with them and we just share some of our struggles, some of the things, maybe something that's working really well, or something that you found really easy to do that maybe they can do too, that's valuable content. You don't have to be the all-knowing person. You could just be sharing your journey. And that felt more comfortable, because I didn't want to show up like, do as I do, right? Because everybody's business is different, and everybody needs a different strategy. I couldn't do that to people, because I don't know what their business is, or how long they've been in business, or if they're startups or, seasoned. But sharing some insights of what I'm discovering or what I'm doing, or, some of the things I'm going to try and test, and maybe it'll fail, maybe it'll succeed. Those things resonate with people. And so I started doing that, and I've noticed some great results. So I've got some notes here. I'm going to cover 3 tips here. Redefining visibility, especially for spiritual entrepreneurs. And the reason I say this is because oftentimes people that come from a ministry background, there's some kind of transformative message, mindset, some kind of life change that they're offering, those intangibles, finding your purpose, that kind of thing. And oftentimes we can feel more vulnerable being ourselves, because visibility isn't just about being on camera. It's about sharing your thoughts and your beliefs and your convictions in public. And that could be super darn scary. And it means letting people hear what you actually think, and knowing that they might disagree or misunderstand or judge you. Now, that's probably one of the things that makes me really nervous, that I would be misunderstood, because sometimes when I speak, I take shortcuts and I don't elaborate on something that I'm saying. And so sometimes when I do shortcuts, people can misunderstand what I'm saying. And so I have to be really careful that I don't offend someone. And that's probably still one of my greatest fears, that I don't offend anyone. But we have to step forward and develop this skill for the sake of others. And so redefining visibility means visibility isn't about becoming a performer or creating a persona. It's just being yourself. And when they begin to hear that authenticity, when they begin to see that you have integrity, then they're going to realize, even if you make an oops, oh, but she would never mean it that way, right? Because they get to know you. And visibility equals intimacy with your audience. Yes, there is a deeper level of intimacy when you're on video. So it's really helpful to connect, which is what we're trying to do online, is to connect with our audience. And that's why we feel so vulnerable, but that's exactly why it's so effective. So, two-edged sword, right? It's effective, but we feel vulnerable, and you can't have one without the other. Number 2, why visibility feels unsafe even when it's a strategic way to market. And remember, marketing is all about building trust. I don't care what people say. Doesn't matter if it's a blog post, if it's a video, any kind of marketing you're doing, you're trying to develop some kind of trust, right? Because if they don't trust you, know you, like you, they're not going to keep following you. They're not going to keep listening. So everything that we're creating as far as quote unquote marketing is we're trying to develop that trust with people. And I think video is a great way to do that. So number 2, why visibility feels unsafe. Being seen can activate our nervous system, our responses to freeze, to stop, to retreat, to run, because we're trying to stay safe. So it can trigger that where we start getting cold sweat. I know when I was trying to do that speech competition and step on stage, my palms would get all sweaty, and I'd have to just say, I'm not doing it for me. I'm doing it for the people that are going to be listening to this in the audience. I'm doing it for them because someone needs to hear this message. And so I would just step on that stage knowing it wasn't about me. It was about serving the audience. So just know that being seen can trigger your body to want to freeze or stop or retreat, but that's normal. And pretty soon that will change to more of an excitement. It does take time. It doesn't happen overnight. And again, on top of that, you may be playing those internal scripts, like being visible is dangerous. You have to be careful what it is that you're saying to yourself. Like, I'm going to bomb. I'm going to forget my lines. This is not safe. People are going to judge me. You got to stop that. Stop it, because that's going to just make things worse. And then when you do start speaking, you're not going to be fully present. It's not going to be you. It's going to be the scared side of you. It's not going to be you. And so all of those things that we keep thinking, we have to stop for a minute, and we have to take whatever it is that we're thinking about and change it and align it to truth. And that's how I got over that, is I had to align it to truth. What is the truth? Because that was a lie. A lot of the things that were going through my head was a lie. So you have to look at that way and stop and take captive that thought and figure out what is the truth about this, and then anchor yourself on that truth. And this is especially true for people who've been taught to be quiet. And that could be a result of society, of culture, of upbringing, could be all kinds of reasons where we're taught to be quiet. So we have to realize, what's triggering this for me? Is it something in my past? Is it something that I'm just imagining, and trying to unpack that and figure that out? And for spiritual entrepreneurs, it could hit even harder because of spiritual upbringing, which I touched on that in part 1 of this 2-part episode series. So if you missed part 1 of this 2-part series, you might want to go back and listen to that. We're often not selling the widgets and the gadgets and the tactics. We're sharing insights, wisdom, lived experience, which means we're becoming more vulnerable with our audience, and that could be scary. And because it matters so deeply to us, it's very personal. That's why showing up on camera or on stage can feel like walking into a spotlight without armor, because it's so personal. It's so important to us, right? It's important, and we've dedicated our life to do this. And so that's why it feels so risky as well. Okay, number 3, let me give you some tips on how you can create a safety net when it comes to public speaking so that you can begin to develop this skill without freaking out. Okay. So the first thing is that whenever you're creating videos, you can always record the video first. And if you don't like it, you can delete it. Especially like the 1.5-minute videos that I do on LinkedIn, I can record them. And if I totally blundered the thing, because I usually just shoot it off the cuff and I don't really prepare a full script. It's only 1.5 minutes and sometimes it's a minute. You can record. If you don't like it, you can delete it. So you can start by just recording, right? Recording. If you're doing some type of course, you can record it, you can edit it, you can modify it, you could throw some overlay over it, where you can have some B-roll or some kind of image that you show in it so that you're not all, face to camera. So there's things that you can do with recorded video. And then once you have the recorded videos and you do short videos, you can do maybe a live and to get used to it, right? And after you do a live, maybe you can do interviews. Maybe you can go on podcasts and do some interviews. Nowadays, a lot of them are video and audio. You can begin to get used to that, right? Speaking on your feet and just being able to answer questions. Then maybe you could do a workshop. You can host a workshop and begin to notice how each time you're growing and it's more content that you're providing. So from the workshop, then maybe you can create a keynote and you begin to build on the skills that you've already established. But you can start with a really, really short recorded video and then go from there. So visibility will always feel like a risk instead of an opportunity unless you reframe that thinking. So I'll say that again. Visibility will always feel like a risk and not an opportunity until you reframe the thinking. You don't show up to be liked. I hate to tell you that. You don't show up to be liked. You show up to be of service. You don't show up to be liked. You show up to be of service. Your story isn't for everyone. So it's not going to land for everyone, but it's for someone. So we need to think about that. The story, the message that we're sharing, it's not going to be for everyone, and that's okay. That's a good thing, but it is for someone, and that someone deserves to hear what you have to say. And visibility that creates engagement is the result of alignment, not algorithms. So I'll say that again. Visibility that creates engagement is a result of alignment and not algorithms. So I have some reflection questions for you so that you can consider, if you're hesitant and you're not creating videos and you feel a little stuck there, here's a question you can ask yourself. If I believe that being seen was part of my service, I'd stop blank and begin sharing blank. So what would that be for you? If I believed that being seen was part of my service or my contribution, I'd stop blank and begin sharing blank. Here are some examples. If I believed that being seen was part of my service, I'd stop withholding my story and begin sharing those moments to help others. Or I'd stop softening my opinion and begin sharing what I really believe about healing, about growth, about vision, about goals, whatever the case may be. Or I'd stop filtering my content and begin sharing my lived experience as a guide, right? As a mentor. Or I'd stop downplaying my offers and begin sharing how I can actually help people and the value that your offers bring. Or I'd stop minimizing the depth of my work and begin sharing what truly happens when people work with me. And you can confidently begin to share case studies. So video is very, very effective. And if you're not using video right now, just know that it is a skill set that you can develop, and you can start with a safety net and create short recorded videos. And that way you feel a little more confident and you'll begin to grow. Those little videos will help you build those skills that you need. So here are some last thoughts. There's a reason visibility feels like a stretch, because it's not about attention. It's about obedience and vulnerability. That's why it feels so difficult to do it. When you choose to show up fully, it's not to spotlight yourself. You're making yourself available. You're thinking beyond your fear and choosing to serve others. And that's pretty powerful. Being seen is an act of generosity. It says, I'm willing to be known so others can find their way. You're not waiting to feel safe. You're being faithful to the message you've been entrusted with. And that takes courage. It's the kind of courage that's willing to be misunderstood, rejected, or to even be a little bit uncomfortable. And finally, when you're on video, it's not about self-promotion, because I hear that a lot. It's really about stepping into your leadership, because out there, there's someone who is waiting to hear your message. So it really is an opportunity to serve and be available to others. So I hope you enjoyed this podcast episode. And if you did, I'd love a rating and review. I'd really appreciate it. And if you haven't tried videos yet, I would encourage you to do that. It's very different than just audio, and it's very different than written. Gives people an opportunity to get to know you. And you're a wonderful person. You're a beautiful person. Why not? And a minute and a half is nothing. You can even do a minute if you like. If you feel more comfortable with a minute, do a minute, and you can get started. It's pre-recorded, very safe. And unless you like it, it will not go online. And if you feel comfortable with it, you can put it online. And I'd love for you to tag me too on LinkedIn. Tag me and let me see your videos. I'd love to share it with my community as well. So until next time, take care. Bye-bye.